How's it going, guys? So, recently I graduated from college, and I was right now I'm just sitting, not doing shit. And I thought, what if I just make this video that basically like goes over advice that like from what I've learned over the years of me being in college, and what if I just make this video and just pass it on to you guys, the freshmen and the sophomores and the juniors, um so just to give a little bit of background, I originally went to community college first, and then I transferred to a university. And then so I did 2 years at community college, got my core out the way, out the classes, and then I transferred to a university and then completed my last 2 years at that university there. So this is going to be like a relatively quick video. I think, I have no idea, I just have like a bunch of stuff here that I want to go over and share with you guys. And yeah, let's just get started. And just a little bit of just a quick disclaimer: this is not ordered at all. I'm just saying it in any random order. So the first one is basically, if you're still in high school, make sure you log in, bro. Okay, you gotta log in. Do everything you can to make yourself a competitive candidate, right? Because if you're a competitive candidate, then you can get admission to a good college, and the college you go to does have the potential to change your life for the better. Like it could be a drastic change, right? And also, if you're a competitive candidate, you have more opportunities for scholarships and things like that, and also make sure you spend time making friends, build social skills, get comfortable with talking to people. I low-key didn't do this at all when I was in high school, and I'm low-key suffering from it right now. Like, low-key, I don't know how to talk to people sometimes. It's like I struggle with being social a lot. So I would say, definitely, if you're still in high school, do everything you can to make yourself a competitive candidate, right? So have all the ECs and the good GPA and all that, and also build your social skills. That's very important. I just mentioned that the college you go to has the potential to change your life drastically. In the same vein, low-key, the college that you attend usually doesn't matter, right? Because I know there's some post-grad programs like med school, law school, etc., that look at your undergrad college, I guess, but even then, like, the college you go to is just one piece of the whole pie, and I feel like what matters more is the work ethic. So if you have person A who goes to a very good college, and then person B who goes to a decent college, right? But person A doesn't really do shit, it doesn't, like, barely goes to class, doesn't have any like side projects, doesn't have any, it's not part of any clubs, doesn't really make friends, doesn't network, but then person B is like mad tapped in, like clubs, networking, goes to class, does a lot of stuff basically. Person B is going to have a lot more opportunities presented to them compared to person A, I feel like, and you might have to work harder, compared to person A, but the opportunities are still going to be there, and that's what I think. So usually I feel the college that you attend doesn't matter in the long run. Maybe it might matter for like your first job out of college, but after that, honestly, it doesn't matter unless you're doing like med school and law school and all that. Even then, still, I think it's one piece of the pie, one piece of the puzzle. You still need the whole puzzle type shit. And then the third point is to not be a chud, like, ever. Don't be a chud, bro. Okay, so what do I mean by what is a chud, right? A chud is someone that's not part of any clubs, has no friends, doesn't go out and do stuff, and just stays inside and studies all day. And I get like, oh my god, I got like OChem, I got motherfucking calculus. I don't care. Okay, no matter how hard the class is, bro, you gotta make sure you go out, right, and just have fun, because college is 2+ years where you're surrounded by people who you have a lot in common with. You can relate to a lot of people in college, right? Because everyone takes 8 a.m. classes, everyone has missed deadlines, everyone has had bad group partners. There's a lot of stuff you can talk about with people in college, right? And you are surrounded by them, right? So make sure you be proactive, don't be afraid to make clubs, right? If you have a niche hobby and there's no clubs on campus, right? Don't be afraid to make one, because you make one, and then you're able to get to organize a group of people together, and employers, scholarship panelists, they love to hear people being proactive, because it shows good leadership skills, right? And in that same vein, make sure you network. LinkedIn is really, really important. If you don't have LinkedIn right now, make sure you get it, right? Connect with everyone you talk to, right? Learn how to talk to people if you can't, right? If you work your social muscles right now, like I'm talking about right now, you learn how to relate and approach people, right? And this not only increases your network, right, but it also exposes you to opportunities, because you learn how to, you can approach recruiters, you can approach hiring managers, you can just be a friendly person, you can be an approachable person, and if you're an approachable person in college, that's going to lead to so many opportunities, not even job wise, but like friendship wise, relationship wise. There's just a lot of opportunities you get with being a friendly and approachable person, right? So don't be a chud, like, ever. Always go out, hang out with people, talk to people, do things, go to events, go to clubs, make clubs, so just don't be a chud. Please don't be a chud. So this next one is gonna be kind of confusing. Low-key, I was a little bit confused when I was writing it out, but GPA does not matter as much as you think, right? But there's a little bit of nuance there, right? GPA matters more if you're paying for school out of pocket because of scholarships, right? So make sure if you're paying for school out of pocket, you gotta make sure you get a really good GPA. Like, aim for a 4.0, just so you're able to get scholarships, and then you can pay for, you don't have to worry about, working during college or having to take out loans and things like that, right? But GPA does not matter as much if you're not paying out of pocket, right? But it's still best to keep it at a decent range, like a 3.2 to a 3.5 for like internships and stuff like that, right? But don't stress about, I got a B in this class, I got a B minus, like, in the grand scheme of things, GPA does not matter unless you're going to like med school or law school and things like that, But if you're just trying to get a regular 9 to 5 after college, then GPA, honestly, for the most part, it doesn't matter. Unless you're paying out of pocket, then it matters, because then you need to lock in and get scholarships, so you don't have to take loans or work during college, so you can lock in your classes, right? Next point is to be fit, right? You got to make sure, this is really, bro, I cannot stress this enough, bro. Being fit in college is the best thing that would happen to you, bro. I'm telling you right now, bro, because looking good and feeling good boost your confidence dramatically, bro, and it makes you more likely to talk to people. If you feel good and you look good, you're like, damn, bro, I got these bulging, biceps, I got this I got tits for pecs, bro. My pecs are like tits, bro. You're gonna want to talk to people, bro, because it's like you feel good, you feel good about yourself, you have good self-esteem, you're gonna want to hit people up, make sure you do some type of physical activity, it could be like the gym, it could be running, sports, anything. Just make sure you do something that elevates your heart rate and burns a little bit of fat, and I promise you, bro, you're not going to regret that. I could bet $1,000 right now, bro, if you become fit either before or during college, bro, you're not going to regret that shit at all, bro. I'm telling you right now. This next one is to find balance between passion and success. What I mean by that is, not all majors are created equal, right? So, and for example, an art major typically would have a harder time finding employment compared to a STEM major, right? But an art major doesn't necessarily have a passion for STEM, right? So if they major in STEM but want to do art instead, they end up maybe just cruising through the major and not making the most of it, and they still end up struggling to find a good foothold in the STEM field, right? So instead, what they could do is they could find a middle ground, right? Something that combines art, which is their passion, and something that it's able to make them pay their bills, so they not only enjoy what they do, but they also make money doing it as well, right? And so an example, I'll use myself as an example, right? So I wanted to be a vet before, right? But vets really don't make as much money compared to doctors, and it's really a hard grind, because getting into vet school is harder than med school, because there's not a lot of vet schools compared to med schools, right? and they don't get paid a lot, and they just like a whole list, they have a really high suicide rate. And I low-key, I love animals, I fuck with animals, but I'm not trying to do all that. Like at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta be a little selfish sometimes. And so I decided to do the next best thing, which is computer science. And I had a passion for both, actually, for veterinary medicine and computer science. But I decided to do computer science and help animals on the side. Like if I'm making good money from my job, I could donate to an animal shelter. I could always volunteer to help animals on the side. But so I'm not treating animals, right? I'm not in the weeds of it, but I'm still able to interact with them if I volunteer, if I donate. I'm still making an impact, which is good enough for me, in my opinion. So basically, just find your balance, right, between passion and success. So another piece of advice is you don't need to go into debt for college, right? So if you're deciding between a good college with debt, right, or an okay-ish college without debt, then it's almost always better to go with the okay college, because not having loans to pay frees up so much of your income, which can be put into other things like savings, investments, and all that, right? The only exception to this is if you know that a good college is going to provide returns that far exceed the amount you have to take out in loans, right? So for example, if you need to take out maybe 60K in loans, but you're guaranteed a 200 to 300K job, like 300K salary after you graduate, then it's a no-brainer. But if you need to take on like 200K in loans, but you're guaranteed like a 60K salary, then it doesn't really make sense, right? It's better to go to the college where you don't have to pay as much, or you don't have to go into debt, basically. So usually it's best to not go into debt for college, because it just frees up so much of your income, and you have so much more that you can work with. So I would not recommend you go into debt for college unless you know exactly what you're doing and you know that the returns are going to far exceed the amount that you have to take out. The next piece of advice is that community college is actually a pretty solid choice. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a community college student myself. I had a 3.1 GPA in high school, but I had a 3.8 in community college, right? And so because I went to community college, I was able to finish my last 2 years debt-free, right? Because I had a 3.8, so I qualified for a bunch of scholarships, right? They had the tiers, like the scholarship tiers with the most money, had their cutoff at 3.7. So basically I got like the max of everything, and many times it's actually easier to transfer to some of these universities than apply as a high school senior, because they have partnerships with community colleges that provide automatic admission, right? So in my case, I needed 42 credits and a 3.0 to get auto-admitted to my university, which I did, right? And I didn't even need to write an essay or anything like that. I just had to submit my application and turn it in, And I started in the fall of that. I started in the university in the fall of that same year seamlessly. There was no problem, nothing like that. If you're doing this way, if you're thinking about going the community college route, do make sure that your classes will transfer, because you might get delayed if some classes don't transfer and you might have to retake them. But overall, community college is a solid choice. I know a lot of students, a lot of friends. Let me not say a lot of friends, right? I know a lot of people, right, that have attended Ivy League or Ivy League adjacent universities after community college, and I personally actually know someone who we went to the same school together. We went to the same community college together, and now she's actually at Princeton, and it ties back to having good work ethic, right? If your work ethic is good, you're going to be good. You're going to have a lot of opportunities presented to you. Just make sure that you work hard and you grind. That's it. The next piece of advice would be to take what your advisors say at face value, right? And a lot of people think that advisors want you to stay longer and pay more money, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that. But at the end of the day, they're human, right? And humans make mistakes. So make sure to always double check whatever they say and try to have it in writing, if possible. When I was in college, like community college, I made my own course plans, when I was in both community college and university, because I didn't want my advisor telling me, oh, take this class. And then I realized I didn't even need the class, in the first place. So I usually everything I did myself. I checked if my classes transferred. I double checked, with the advisors from both schools if the class is transferred. And it takes, all this takes a little bit of effort. I feel like it takes a little bit of effort, and it could save you one or two, extra semesters that you might have to take if you take the wrong class, for example. So don't take what your advisors say, as the truth, right? Always take what they say at face value, take it with a grain of salt. Always do your own research. Always make sure that whatever, classes you're taking, whatever you're doing, make sure that it's going to be good, basically. And the last piece of advice that I have here is that you are in charge of your own life, right? So in high school, there's a little bit of independence, but things are a little structured. You wake up at a set time, you take the bus at a set time, you have classes at a set time. Your teachers tell you, do this, do that. You have to make sure you do this, make sure you do that. But it's different in college, right? Your schedule changes day by day. You could have classes from 8 till 5 today, and then the next day you have classes from 1 to 7, right? Or you have classes from 10 till 2. It just changes day by day, and there's just no structure, right? So you have to make sure that you set a structure when you're going into college, right? So you need to set when you're gonna have lunch, when you're gonna hang with friends, when you're gonna study, when you're gonna do homework, when you're gonna go to classes, right? Because in college, no one is coming to save you, right? So you have to make sure you're doing everything you can to put yourself in the best possible position during and after college. Right. All right, guys. That's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe type shit, Since I graduated, I'm trying to make more content. So let me know what type of content you would like to see in future videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys, took something from this. And I will see you guys later. Peace out.